What's up guys, I'm Chris from Crooked Row, and if you've been following our channel for a bit, you will have known that a while back I did a video on potatoes and I showed how to plant them. And so that was at the beginning of the season, and now we're here at the end and we're finally getting ready to begin our harvest. So today I'm going to be showing how to harvest your potatoes, and yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. Let's get started. So as you can see here, this is the bed where we did our first video, and you'll know there was another video where we did it in like some raised beds where we planted potatoes in raised beds, and we also have several other beds that I think we planted off camera. I don't know that we filmed that. So if you saw our video, you'll remember that we talked about experimenting with doing mounded potatoes and non-mounded potatoes. And here, in these two groups, you can clearly see, here we have our mounded ones, okay? We did some great big mounds for this, all the way down. And as we move over this way, not all of these are mounded. Some of them have very small mounds, but this row right here has like nothing. Hey guys, so I got my potato fork, and I'm out here and I'm ready to start harvesting. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Hey guys, so I harvested those first two rows, and here's what we got. Now I don't know about you, but that looks like probably double, triple what we planted. So I'm gonna call that a success. So you saw our other wheelbarrow of potatoes, which was from our mounds, right? Now this is from our two of our unmounded rows. And this pales by comparison to the mounded rows. We might have gotten back as much as we planted. I don't know, maybe a little more, maybe. But that was a very bad potato haul from those two rows. So I'm gonna finish harvesting the other unmounded row, and then I'll show you what we got from the unmounded rows altogether. But this is the same amount of space of planting for far, far, far less potatoes. So just keep that in mind. Hi, so we went ahead and we've harvested another bed. We went ahead and harvested this one here, over here by our beautiful elderberry bush. And the whole thing was unmounded. It was in beautiful, fertile soil. All the potatoes were unchitted. But again, we just got terribly underwhelming results. We've got this much from like 5 rows of potatoes. This is just ridiculous. So far, it just really looks like the hilled ones are going to way outshine the non-hilled ones.
Hi everybody, I'm Christopher from Crooked Row.
And I'm Tara.
And
we're back here to talk about the different yields and the different tests we did with our potato harvest.
This year we let Christopher do the potatoes, and we learned a lot. There was a lot of testing that we did this year, and I'll let him tell you about that.
Okay, so the first bed that you guys saw me plant, I already showed it here in the video, but we got a pretty normal yield from it. Our first 2 rows were mounded, I think, like about maybe a foot, 18 inches.
18 inches.
And we got loads and loads and loads of good sized potatoes out of those 2 rows. But then the other ones after that weren't really mounded at all, like maybe 2 inches, I don't know. And we got terrible produce out of those rows.
Yeah.
We got potatoes like this big around and few and far between.
And it also tells us that, you know, there's a reason why old timers have these little tips and tricks that they do.
Yeah.
And so I've seen so many videos where they're like, you don't have to mound your potatoes. And I don't know what they're doing, but we fertilized, planted it in compost. We've planted it different ways and different...
loosen the soil.
But the old-fashioned plant in the ground, mound when they're about 12 inches, and then mound them again, it seems to be the perfect recipe, at least for us in our zone.
Yeah. And so then we moved on to, there were 2 other beds that are actually sort of back behind us right now. And out of those 2 beds, we got about 20 pounds out of each one. They were okay. One of those beds had more 18-inch mounds. And again, we got great results out of these 18-inch mounds. So in those areas, these mounds they produced fantastically.
And in each bed, he mounded a couple rows,
Yep.
didn't mound a couple rows. We also, if you go back and look in the original video that Christopher did, which you can get below, if you look in that original video, he had, let's see, what was the original test? Oh, chitting. And chitting is actually where you use potatoes that have already sprouted. But the test that we were running was, could we get the same yield from cut potatoes that we did whole potatoes?
And it seems like with the chitted potatoes, you got the same amount of potatoes in a mound for every whole potato. And so when you think about it, if I cut a potato into 3 pieces, and that gives me as many potatoes from each piece as I would from a whole potato, it's totally worth going and just chitting the potato, because you're actually getting 3 times as much in the end.
And again, chitting is where you have sprouted it, but what we're talking about is cutting where the piece has a couple eyes on it. And then we received a really good tip from Amish where we roll ours in wood ash.
Yes.
And then we let it set for like a day, 24 hours to kind of dry out. You just don't want to plant, you know, it wet.
And so then we, off to our left from where the camera is, there is another bed. And this one was our biggest one, so maybe this is a little unfair. But this bed has had wood chips on it for years. And I don't know if you've ever heard a person called Paul Gauci teaching Back to Eden gardening methods, but the method, for the most part, works really, really well.
Yeah, it does. For us, I know that there are people like Doug and Stacy off-grid. They had no success with wood chips for some reason, and we all have different soil. So, you know, we're in a zone 6. I think they might be in zone 6 as well, but we have great soil. I mean, we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate. And so wood chips just feed it, and there's tons of worms and activity in it. I know that they're, like David the Good has talked a lot about, that you don't use them with annuals, but only use them on perennials. We just don't have that here. Our annuals love it, our perennials love it. Can you think of anything that didn't love it?
Nothing. No. I can think of nothing that did not like the wood chips.
Wood chips, everything. And our soil, at one point, we had, I can't remember what had happened in the garden, but we were like bouncing on shovels. And so we had heard about the Paul Gauchi method, and so we went and we got tons of newspapers, and then we put the wood chips on it in the fall, and it just kind of composted. By that next spring, we were able to just go out and with like little hand trowels, we planted a whole nice garden, and it gave us great yields right off the bat. Now, I've seen a lot of people on YouTube who don't have it right off the bat, and it takes like 3 to 5 years for them to get good soil.
Yeah.
Again, everybody's different, so.
Yeah. And so in our Back to Eden bed, we had some areas that were mounded and some that weren't, but to be honest, they all produced right about the same. Like maybe the areas that were mounded produced a little bit more, but not by much. And we ended up getting 60 pounds out of that area.
That one bed. I thought it was 75.
You might be right. It might have been 75 pounds.
Out of the one bed.
And so it is our best bed by far.
Yeah. And we also all planted, which we showed, where we planted in raised beds. And they were just kind of, you know, they were 1 board high. I think they're 6-inch boards.
Yeah.
We planted in there too, and that was our smallest yield.
Yeah, it was, I think we got 10 pounds altogether out of the entire 4 beds.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it was the worst yield I think we've ever had in potatoes.
And they were tiny. They were real little tiny. But in defense of raised beds, for years I've always planted like 1 or 2 potato plants in our tall raised beds. And they produce like crazy.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to go back to the drawing boards and figure out if it was what we put in the raised beds, or you know, what kind of went wrong there. I think you can grow potatoes anywhere. I know my aunt next year said that she's going to put them in buckets, and I heard that works super good. So anybody can plant anywhere. That is the point.
Yeah. So far for our little just, you know, post video analysis.
Whoa.
For a little post video analysis, mounding definitely works, and wood chips definitely help out a lot. Maybe next year we should test and see if like mounding in wood chips works better than mounding regularly. But anyway, if we can grow potatoes, anybody can. Bye.